can't believe it's taking me this long to have done this recipe. Chris here, CaribbeanPot.com, your wicked chef vibes it up in the kitchen as usual. Today we're doing a different take on probably one of the most classic dish out of the Caribbean, Pelau. Now we've done the vegetarian one, we've done the curry Pelau, and we've done the chicken Pelau. I've yet to do beef Pelau. That's what we're doing today. Vibes it out, man. The very first thing we've got to do is to season this beef here. Let me just move this aside. And this is one of those times I'm gonna recommend that you don't do as I do, because I'm pressed for time. So normally I would say marinate this for a couple hours or overnight if possible. Today I go in right in, and here I have about 3 pounds of beef, and I've cut them into strips across the grain because I want, and yeah, it's going to be quite a bit, but I want with every sort of fork full of pilau, you're getting a piece of beef, man, you know. So we have that beef there, all cut, washed, and everything prepped. First thing first, salt. And you will notice I'm going in with a lot of what may seem like a lot of salt, but remember we go in with rice and everything later on. So this is the only salt I'm adding to this dish. Next up, a little cayenne parents, Worcestershire, some black pepper. And if you guys have access to your own Caribbean green seasoning, you can use that. One of the reasons why is I'm not using, though I have a little bit of ketchup, I'm not using Caribbean green seasoning today. One, because I want to show people that you can basically cut up your herbs and stuff like that and use that rather than the green seasoning. And two, a lot of people go in and buy that fluorescent green thing in the grocery store. Please avoid using that. Here I've got 3 cloves of crushed garlic, 1.5 medium-sized tomato. I've got some parsley, some fresh thyme, and scallions. All the ingredients we use today will be mentioned in the description, and I will post it on CaribbeanPot.com as well. I'm going to toss all of that in, and I want to show you guys a little something. These here are 3 white habanero peppers. Relatively hot, not as hot as Caribbean Sunshine, but the flavor on these is wicked, man. I'm just going to give these a rough chop. You can put this, you can use any sort of spicy hot pepper you like, or you can leave it out. If you have access to pimento peppers, I would recommend going in with some of that as well. Next up, some grated ginger in there. And as you guys know, I'm not a big fan of peeling ginger. I like to get that skin and everything in there. And all you need to do now is toss that, mix it up nice, and allow it to marinate. Like I said, I'm not going to allow mine to marinate because I'm kind of hungry right now. But I forgot to mention I have a small onion here as well. So just going to give that a rough chop. And again, season, marinate, and then get to cooking. I've got a nice wide, deep, heavy pot here on a high heat, and I went in with 1 tablespoon of vegetable oil. Couple things, you want to use a dry spoon because we're going to be using sugar and oil in here. Anything wet and you're looking for problems, the other thing I would recommend is I'm using a short handle spoon, but I would recommend using a longer handle because chances are, if it's your first time doing this sort of browning method, it could jump back at you and burn your hands. So I'm going in with about 1.5 tablespoons of golden brown sugar. And what we're looking for, we want that to melt. And we've done this before when we did the stew pork and the stew beef and the stew chicken. We want this to melt. It's going to go amber. It's going to go frothy. And just before it goes black, if it goes black, you've gone too far. You got to stop. Once it's amber, that's when we're going to, and you need to have the seasoned beef close at hand. All I'm going to keep doing here is moving this around so it melts and it becomes amber, as I said. I do apologize for the smoke, but that's just the reality of when you're making this sort of browning with the brown sugar. And you can see the edges where the flame, the main flame is. It's already going amber. It's going frothy. I'm just moving that around to allow the center to go amber as well. And this here will give it that unique Caribbean flavor as well as that rich golden color that we're looking for. I do apologize for the smoke, as I said. Here's where now I'm going to start adding, I'm not sure you guys can see it, but I'm going to start adding the seasoned beef to the pot. whole idea is to pick up all that browning on the bottom of the pot there, coat every piece of beef with it. I'm going to turn my heat down to medium now. I'm going to put the lid on there. It's going to spring its own juices, and we want that to cook for about 25 minutes or so. Just wanted to quickly show you all the amount of water the beef will spring up on its own, so you don't really have to add any liquid to it. You're just going to continue simmering that away there because we want the beef to be relatively tender before we add the other ingredients. I allowed it to simmer a little bit longer. It's been going for about half an hour now, and here's where we're going to do. We're going to burn off all the liquid that's on the bottom of the pot here. So I'm going to crank up my heat because we want to achieve a couple things. We want to infuse the pieces of beef. Bear with me for a second, the heat is up. We want to infuse the pieces of beef with that rich stew flavor, and we want that rich golden color, that deep amber that we're looking for, because when we add the rice shortly, as well as the pigeon peas and carrots, we want everything to have a nice color at the end. So all we're doing here now is burning off all that liquid. Got that rich color that we were looking for. The stew is smelling good. So here is we're going to go in. I have 1 carrot, and this is the same bowl that I marinated the beef in. That is cool. We've got 1 can of green pigeon peas, and I've got 1 large carrot that I diced up. We're going in there because I want to pick up any sort of marinade that was left back in that bowl. Don't worry about cross-contamination and all that jazz. This is going to be cooked for another 45 minutes or so. Just going to give that a quick shake. Give it a stir because I want to sort of bring all those flavors together. Heat's still on high, and we're going to go in with 1 can of coconut milk. Give that a good stir. The heat is on high because we want to bring this back up to a boil. I'm going to put here 2 cups of water in here, swish it around and into the pot as well. It's come up to a bubble now. Everything is boiling nicely. Let's give that a quick stir. And the final ingredient I'm going to add here is 3 cups parboiled brown rice, which I already washed. Just going to put that in there, give it a stir, and bring everything up to a boil. Now near the end, Begonians will say you need to add some golden ray salted cooking butter. I don't do that. The only thing I would add to here near the end is probably some chopped pimentos and some diced celery. I'm going to bring this up to a boil. I'm going to put the lid back on there and let that cook until all the water is absorbed, the rice is nice and plump, and those pieces of beef are nice and tender. The rice has already started to absorb some of that liquid. And with me, I like my pilau sort of grainy. There are some people like their pilau more wet. If you're the type of person who likes your pilau more wet, you may need to add some more liquid in there. I'm just going to turn my heat down to like a very low. Put the lid on there. I'll let that continue cooking. It's been going now for about 25 minutes. And like I said, I like my pilau sort of grainy. And that is exactly what we have going on here. Chris here, CaribbeanPot.com. Always a pleasure to have you guys here in the kitchen with me. If you want to go in with some chopped green onions here, you can certainly do that. All the ingredients we use here today will be posted on CaribbeanPot.com, as well as in the description below. Beef Pelau, you can't go wrong, man.